All right, YouTube, welcome back. Right now you guys are mounted on my head because we're going to talk and walk. Today I'm excited, man. Today I'm going to try and take the transmission off out completely. I want to be able to do that just today. But before we can start, the reason we're walking is because we got to get Harley. Let him out. What the babies? What's up, man? What's up? What up? What up? You ready? All right. So, like I said, I want to get that transmission out today. That is the goal for today, is to get the trans completely out. If we can put the converter in today, then we'll also do that. But the goal is to get it down. So I need a couple tools. It's a little bit windy, and by a little bit I mean a lot. You can see the flag. So that's gonna suck. But other than that, we've got Harley now. We're gonna get everything set up. The garage is nice and clean because, as you can tell by all the fireworks that are out there, yesterday was New Year's, but the garage is nice and clean. Get everything set up and then I'll be right back. Right now, let's go under the car. Try and give you guys an angle. So right now I've got our oil pan down here because up there is our, what's the word I'm looking for? Our cooler lines. So we need to take this off. Some transmission fluid is going to come out and then move it out of the way. That way we can get this transmission out. Other than the cooler lines, we move over here and oh, it's actually opposing. Right here is where we can access, usually your starter's right here. I already removed the starter, but we can access our torque converter bolts right here. So I've already got one off. That's number 2, and then number 3 will come around. In order to get the converter bolts to show, all you do is crank the engine, and then it'll turn the flywheel, and then you can remove the converter bolts. So I need to remove those 2, remove the lines, and then after that apply pressure up on the transmission. I've already got most of the bell housing bolts off. I'll remove the bell housing bolts, the ones that are remaining, and then remove this brace here, which you guys hopefully can see right there. And then after that, this transmission will be good to come down. So right now, the lines, converter bolts, bell housing bolts, then this, and the transmission is coming down. The only problem is clearance. I don't know if I'm gonna have enough to get the transmission out the side of the car. If I don't, I'll jack the car up a little bit more so that it clears, and we'll move from there. But for now, let me get working on those things. All right, quick update for you guys. So we've got all the bell housing bolts have already been taken off. We've got the transmission jack set. We've got our transmission lines, if you guys can see this, are off already. And now the last thing that I'm doing is getting this support removed. I already got the 1, 2, and then there's one in the middle, 3 bolts. So you can see 1, 2, and then there's one in the middle right here, 3. On that side off, so now I'm doing this one, and then after that it'll just be removing the transmission from the engine and then lowering. So we're moving along pretty well. Like, I want to get this done by the end of today, and it's going good so far. Let me just keep working. I just wanted to update you guys, and yeah, I'll be back hopefully when this transmission is down. Hey bro, can y'all even see me? No matter. Prying this thing off sucks. As you guys can see, transmission's out. I got it out. My jack, my little setup over there, it's not high enough to where I can actually roll the transmission back out from under there. So I just took the torque converter off and it's sitting right here. It's a family event. Joe's here, Bianca's here, Tia Mary's here, Jose's here, Harley's here. Everybody's out here. I've been working on this all day. I busted my hand up, which I'll show you guys that tomorrow when there's light, but it's pretty bad. But I got it. So right now all I'm gonna do is cover the front of the bell housing. I'll just leave the transmission like that, and then I'll re-level the car because it's off level right now. And then that's it until tomorrow. But honestly, this freaking sucked. Do not recommend. Just take it somewhere with a lift. But for now, just gotta finish the job. But yeah, this sucked. Don't do this. All right, so the last thing you guys saw was me struggling under the car, trying to pry the transmission from the engine, and that was a big struggle. It took me maybe 2 hours, but other than that, taking the transmission off was pretty easy. So it's sitting right there. I don't have enough height. I jacked my jack up as high as it could, and I don't have enough height to get this transmission out. So I took the torque converter out just while it was down there. So the old one is there, and this is the new one. What I'm gonna do is run to go get either some steel wool or an aggressive sandpaper and then some rust remover so I can get all the surface rust off. I got this thing in July, and so it's been sitting in storage for 6 months. So that's where all the rust is from. Other than that, when I was prying, I absolutely destroyed my hand. The pry bar came loose and I punched the bottom of the car, and then it gave me that. So wear gloves. But other than that, what you guys are gonna see for the rest of this video is just me cleaning this and then putting the new torque converter in, and then that'll be it. It's very windy today, so if the audio is scuffed, my bad. I'll try and avoid that for you guys. But other than that, I gotta run to the parts store, get this stuff, and then we'll get the new torque converter in, and then we'll keep moving from there. All right, so here's what we got. Old torque converter is just there. We got our new one here with its rust. We've got a nice rust remover. We've got some brushes. These ones are steel. I think these ones are brass. But we've got these, and then we've also got some extra fine steel wool. So I think I'm gonna use the steel wool first, see how it does, and then if I have to be a little bit more aggressive, I'll go to the brushes. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what it was. Right now, the only thing I'm gonna do is fill the torque converter with about a quart of transmission fluid. All right, the only other thing to know about the torque converter before you put it back in is that these little notches in here, they align with the oil pump that is over there on the transmission side. So make sure that when you're seating this thing in, these notches, you'll hear it click in, but just keep that in mind, because what you don't want is to put the torque converter in and it's not seated all the way, and then things go boom. So just remember the notches, the pump, and then seat it correctly, and you're good. All right, the last thing you guys saw was me putting the torque converter into the transmission. Since then, I've got the transmission back up, and I've got the torque converter already connected to the flex plate. So everything is really done with the transmission. I do have to replace the transmission cooler O-ring on this side, which I can come and show you guys. But other than replacing that O-ring, like I said, everything is practically done with the transmission. But to show you guys, your transmission obviously has these cooler pipes right here. And this, when you take this bolt off, the pipes will come off, and that'll give you space to drop the transmission. But the O-ring that makes this seal here, it needs to be replaced. You can't reuse it. So there's a parts store near me that actually has the part. I just need to go and buy it. But other than that O-ring, this transmission is up, it's sealed. I've got the torque converter torqued down, and everything is good. Other than that, doing the transmission really wasn't too bad. Like I said earlier in the video, you guys would see that I was kind of scared to do it and this, that, the other, but it honestly wasn't too hard. Getting it down,
Obviously, you move all the. There's one wiring harness that needs to be disconnected from the transmission. There's a shift linkage that needs to be taken off, and then there's a vent hose on top of the transmission that needs to be taken off. Other than that, it's the bell housing bolts, which are easy to get to if, like me, you have your intake manifold off, because then you can just reach them from the top where the engine would be, or where the engine is. You reach those bolts, and those come off easy. The rest of them you can reach from the bottom. And then you just need a good transmission jack, and then it comes down pretty easily if your alignment dowels aren't all rusted. If they are rusted like mine were, you guys saw my hand, I jacked my hand up. So use gloves, use a pry bar, and just pry off, and then eventually it'll break off. What I did also was WD-40 those alignment dowels, and that made it a little bit easier to get the one that was really stuck off. Other than that, transmission, dropping it, you can do by yourself. Putting it back up is going to be nearly impossible to do by yourself. You're going to need a second set of hands. My stepfather was generous enough to come and help me out while I was doing it, so we got that done together. All in all, it took me 2 days to drop, replace the torque converter, and then put the transmission back up. So really not that long. Again, I did it on jack stands, and the car didn't come up high enough to where I could roll the transmission out. So I just did the work under the transmission was under the car, and I did the work on the transmission down there. If you have a lift, it's going to be easier for you. If you've got a way to get the car higher, it's going to be easier for you. So there's a lot of things you can do to make it easier. All in all, not too bad though. What I will say is to make sure you do all your research on the proper spacing of the torque converter. So first things first, make sure that it seats correctly when you're putting it in onto the transmission, that shaft. After that, once it's on and you bring the transmission back up, make sure you have proper spacing between the torque converter and the flex plate. These things are really important, because if not, if that torque converter comes off of the shaft that's there inside the transmission and it comes off of the oil pump, you can have catastrophic failure of your transmission. That's very important. That's honestly probably the most important thing to do correctly on this install. So make sure you do that. Do some research. It's very important. Make sure everything is done correctly. That way you have no problems in the future. Other than that, that'll be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't seen any of the other videos on this series, I've got them all on the channel, so go ahead and give those a look. Other than that, like I said, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. You guys know the deal, and I'll see you in the next one.